In the Halifax area, for example, officials have postponed the opening of school as a safeguard. Here's Graham Allen with the details.
The school ban is one of a series of developments which have come quickly in the last few days as it became more and more apparent that this is the most serious polio situation we've had since 1942. City health authorities claimed orders barring children under 16 from schools, theaters, and churches. The town of Dartmouth, plus the harbor of Halifax, adopted the same rules, and suburban communities have followed suit. City playgrounds, which had closed for the season and put the equipment away, are now setting up again to give the children a place to play until the schools open. Other recent developments include the calling in of provincial health nurses in various parts of the province, the commandeering of iron lungs, the loan of nurses to the Naval Hospital to help out, and the construction of special hospital wards. On one of these jobs, a crew of electricians, plumbers, and carpenters worked all night to provide the facilities for emergency needs. City and provincial authorities are working closely in the situation and trying especially there must be sufficient nurses, for many are needed and the strain on those who have been working in emergency is great. More than 150 cases of polio have been reported in the province, and more than half of these were discovered in the Halifax area. The last official figure says 7 deaths. Besides these cases, of course, many patients are ordered to hospital for observation if they have suspicious symptoms. Meanwhile, the aircraft carrier Magnificent, which sailed to Halifax recently, has reported 7 cases at Malta, where she used to take part in joint fleet exercises. A special naval medical team has flown from Halifax to Malta to help the ship's medical staff. Several local events have been cancelled or postponed because of the situation, and there's some uneasiness among tenants, many of those stricken being children. But though people are uneasy, there's no sign of panic. It's rather a realistic understanding that the situation is great enough to justify special safeguards. This is Graham Allen reporting the news roundup from Halifax.
Recently, Chicago high school students, the Brazilian army, Tunisian hospital workers, some pets and their owners, half a town in Spain, Australians in funny hats, a bunch of movie stars, and about 100,000 other people came together to help end polio. We called it the world's biggest commercial, and the Guinness World Records agreed. It was the whole world telling the whole world we are this close to ending polio. And soon, we will be finished. Rotary would like to thank everyone from the 171 countries who showed their support. Special thanks to our biggest participants: Brazil, Spain, Portugal, Peru, Venezuela, and the United States.
Never turn my back on those who need some I'm gonna try and change the world. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming out tonight. And I'm going to try one more song. It's a song that I wrote back in 2004. Something like that, 2003 actually. It's a song called Superheroes. It's about basically everyone can be a superhero. You just gotta have faith and believe. And I'll just sing it and it goes like this. Listen to my song, I sing it good and loud. It's all about the modern day superhero. No capes, no swords or magic, no flying man in space. Just look around and you'll see that all we need is faith. We can't all be superheroes. I'll be super if we look for the good and all. Look for the good and all. If we try our best to believe, then maybe we will rise and not fall. Through our darkest days and loneliest nights, if you look within, you'll find the strength to fight. In this crazy world we live, it doesn't hurt to just give. No reason, no how, no why. Why can't we just try? We can't all be superheroes. I'll be super if we look for the good and all. Look for the good and all. And if we try our best to believe, then maybe we will rise and not fall. Give it a little, give it a lot. Give it all that you got. 'Cause in the end there's no regrets. 'Cause when you lived your life and gave the best of it, we can't all be superheroes. I'll be super if we look for the good and all. Look for the good and all. And if we try our best to believe, then maybe we will rise and not fall. If we try our best to believe, then maybe we will rise. And maybe we will rise. And maybe we will rise and not fall. Thank you. Thank you very much. See if this one's on. All right, I'll try this from over here. So, polio. That's why we're here. Polio is a highly infectious disease caused by a virus. It invades the nervous system and can cause irreversible paralysis in a matter of hours. So with all the talk of polio around the world, around here most of us think that it's all third world countries, and that's basically because Canada's been polio free for so long that we tend not to think about it. But we actually have polio survivors in our own town, and we're very honored tonight on behalf of our Rotary Club of Port Hawkesbury to introduce a local polio survivor. He's here tonight and he's going to have a great chat with you and give you some great information. And Mr. Roy Skirmy, I'll welcome you to the stage.
Thanks for the introduction, Jeremy. Appreciate that. As a polio survivor, I'd like to thank the local Rotary Club for this evening's event. Rotary International, the United Nations through UNICEF, the March of Dimes, the Abilities Foundation of Nova Scotia, and all the agencies, medical doctors, and researchers who have raised millions and millions of dollars over the years for research, public awareness, and the delivery of polio vaccine around the world to help eradicate one of the greatest cripplers of all times. Several weeks ago, Mary McDonald called and asked if I would speak about surviving polio. And to be honest, Mary, I don't ever remember having anyone ask me what it was like growing up after having polio and how it impacted my life, except my wife. She reminded me of that today. So during the last number of days, a number of shoeboxes I had hidden in my life closet have spilled out, and I've had to put some thought into what I would like to tell you. It gives me a chance to set the record straight. No, my limp was not caused from falling off the stage in Glencoe Mills at the Canadian Step Dancing Championship. And no, I didn't break my leg playing Major Junior A hockey with the Labrador Icebergs in North Atlantic Ocean League. These were the types of stories I like to tell kids when they used to ask me about my limb. As the years moved on, parents would often tell their child some foolish story I had told them when they were in school. Tuesday night, my daughter Kim called from Australia, and I told her I was speaking here this evening about polio and my experiences and the lies I told people. She told me her friends always thought I had a wooden leg, and she couldn't be bothered to tell them the difference. Chip off the old block. Hence, I was affectionately referred to as Old Peg Leg, something I found out when I retired. Now, I've narrowed my experiences with polio down into 3 phases, and I'll begin with phase 1. Back in 1951-52, North America was in the midst of the biggest polio epidemic in history. Outbreaks were also occurring in Europe, Scandinavian countries, South America, Africa, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia, Australia, and New Zealand. And the greatest number of individuals affected, strangely enough, were children between the ages of 4 and 10 years old. So in August of 1951, my sister and I came down with flu-like symptoms. And after 4 days, my sister was better with no problems. After 10 days, I contracted paralysis, and I couldn't move from the neck down. Our family doctor and my father drove me to the west annex of the old Victoria General Hospital in Halifax. And at the time, it was serving as a sanatorium where polio victims were placed in quarantine. A spinal tap was performed on me, and the spinal fluid was taken, verified that I had paralytic flaccid polio. I was admitted to the hospital on August the 18th. The polio virus had affected the motor neurons and the central nervous system, causing paralysis, messing up the messages being sent from the brain and spinal column. This form of polio settled in the limbs. I was a 4-year-old diagnosed with poliomyelitis, infantile paralysis, or commonly called polio. Can you imagine the terror my parents went through, not knowing what was going to happen, what with the news of the day describing the horrors of the disease? Can you imagine the trauma I went through as a 4-year-old, having a spinal tap, being taken away from my parents, and not able to move, in a hospital with strangers, filled with sick people, and cut off from the outside world? Young children often can adapt easily and are resilient, and other children, nurses, doctors, and attendants become your family. Now, how did this happen to me? Well, polio is a virus, has been said, that is associated with contaminated human feces and surfaces where there are open sewers, cesspools, and stagnant water. Polio is contagious when someone comes in contact with a person carrying the virus. The person may not be outwardly affected themselves. Usually there's about a 2-week incubation period when you're most contagious. Polio outbreaks were often associated with ghettos and slum areas. But not all patients came from poor areas, however. Franklin Delano Roosevelt came from a wealthy family and caught polio while on holidays at a summer home in Campbell Island off New Brunswick in 1921, while he was 39 years old. And if you didn't see the recent document on the Roosevelts, you should get it and check out one of the sequences where it describes how he dealt with polio. In many instances, local swimming pools and public buildings and so on were closed down. It's anyone's guess how I contracted polio. You must remember that most people who contracted polio had little or no lasting effects. A lot of people didn't even know they had polio. Only about 1% of polio victims got paralytic polio. Deaths were quite common with those who had polio, especially those who had polio that affected their respiratory system and were in iron lungs. A lot of polio victims have not lived a long life, and many have suffered as disabled individuals, not able to live a normal life. Due to a poor education and no employment, many resorted to drugs and alcohol to deal with their frustrations. After 3 months, I gained use of my arms, but still had paralysis from the waist down. There was and still is no cure for polio. Every day you had your affected limbs wrapped in steaming hot wool strips, which were allowed to cool. And this was followed by physiotherapy, where attendants moved your affected limbs around, attempting to stimulate the nerves and muscles and get the messages connecting from your brain and spinal column again. This treatment had been used by a missionary, Sister Elizabeth Kenny, in the outback of Australia with polio victims back in the 30s, and she later introduced this to North America. My father was taken up to the stairwell on one occasion, so I began to see him and wait, and he was able to take my jammies home to be washed and bring them back. On Christmas Day, I was taken home by ambulance just for the day. About 12 months to the day, the paralysis left my legs just as mysteriously as it entered, and I had to learn how to walk again. I was able to go home and shortly afterwards, because there was nothing more that they could do in the hospital that couldn't be done at home. My mother continued to wrap my legs and exercise them. Because of the great unknown, doctors were not all that optimistic about my recovery. They gave my parents the worst case scenario. I'd be able to walk with a walker if needed, braces, crutches, and research boots, which resembled fit boots. I wouldn't be able to run and would have little or no balance. School should be delayed until I would be able to get there on my own. Well, my mother was afraid to let me out of her sight, let alone let me outside, and I was destined to be a house cat. We moved from our 2-room shack to a new housing project and got indoor plumbing, and I had my own bedroom. A new school, luckily, was built in our backyard, and I finally started school at the age of 7. No less than 4 of my cellmates from incarceration at the hospital also started school with me. There was Judy in a wheelchair, Davy and Hilchie were on crutches, and Hopalong Gary had a 6-inch difference in one leg with a 6-inch lift, and me, stumbly, tumbly, stormy, walking on my own. I was on my way to living a life as a crippled, handicapped, disabled person. And then I came along into phase 2, a person with limitations. In June of 1957, my Uncle Moo, the farmer, was attending meetings with the Department of Agriculture, and he stopped in on his way home for tea. And when he was getting ready to leave, he asked if my suitcase was packed. And to this day, I don't know how this was all put together, but I think it was his attempt to get me away from my mother's clutches and give me some good old fresh air mixed with the smell of cow and horse manure in Bredor. Well, was I in for a life-altering shock? My mother's name was Hood, and I landed on Morning Acre Farm with Robin Hood and his married brothers and sisters and their families. And it didn't take long before I had to be innovative to avoid being trampled or horned by 1,400 Ayrshires or being kicked or bitten by crazy racehorses owned by some of my relatives involved in the harness racing industry. I truly believe that animals have a wonderful sense of when someone is a little off or are suffering from some affliction. The dogs, cows, and horses paid me little attention, and my relatives were taken back when I brazenly moved around them with no sense of fear, and I never did get hurt. I fancied myself as some kind of an animal whisperer. One of my cousins found an old discarded bike with no fenders or brakes, and my other cousins took great delight in seeing me crash into the barn and ditches and hay fields and stop. I did learn to ride a bike eventually because one of my uncles put brakes on the thing, and I also learned to swim after being thrown in. Now for the next 10 summers, Christmases, Easters, and any other vacation found me in Verdor. I joined the 4-H club and I learned to show calves. I later showed cattle and horses at local exhibitions, the provincial, and at the Atlantic Winter Fair. And I developed a love for ayrshires from horse racing, and I learned a lot about animal husbandry. When I would return home each fall, I was better equipped to take part in normal activities, like baseball and hockey and other outdoor activities. Generally in hockey and soccer, I was the target. I had become a person with limitations. By the time I was in grade 12, I knew my only option was university, as I didn't know how long I was going to stay healthy. So I went to St. Mary's and obtained a BA and a BEd, and I landed a job here in Hawkesbury. And over the next 32 years, I was a teacher, administrator, and a guidance counselor. I was involved in high school hockey, volleyball, and softball as a coach or manager. I continued to take courses and received a master's degree in administration, and I had diplomas in guidance and curriculum, critical incident briefing, crisis management, and grief counseling. I had the good sense to marry a nurse, who I've been with for 43 years, and together we have 3 children who are all well educated and married, and I have 2 great grandchildren. I played co-ed volleyball, played softball for 14 years, and I sailed for close to 30 years, and sailing on my own ocean-going sailboat for 12 years. I was involved in the yacht club and waterfront development, and I served straight bars, minor hockey, and minor baseball. And then I entered phase 3, post-polio syndrome, which I don't imagine a lot of you have heard tell of. Well, in the late 90s, I began to suffer from chronic pain, chronic fatigue, and after a 2-year wait, I was able to see an orthopedic specialist at the rehab center in Halifax. She invited me back to take a week and undergo a series of tests to confirm what the specialist knew I was suffering from. I had post-polio syndrome, and this was a non-contagious condition that 20 to 30% of paralytic polio survivors are experiencing, especially those who have at least a couple of limbs infected by polio. So over the next couple of years, I had orthotics, a brace for my bad leg to support my fused ankle. That's what I have on this right here. See, it's made out of fiberglass, very well concealed, and it replaces the old stainless steel braces people used to wear. I also have a knee brace for my not-so-good right leg to support my knee. I was also referred to an orthopedic surgeon to have my right knee checked, and after another 2-year wait, I was diagnosed that I had progressive muscle and joint weakness. I also suffer from sleep apnea, mood swings, and I suppose I could be prone to depression, but I'm too busy. I also don't tolerate cold or dampness very well. The federal government has made up to $40,000 available in tax incentives for persons suffering from post-polio syndrome, so you can see that it's a bona fide and verified condition. With the help of my family doctor, collecting information, and getting documentation from the specialists, I've been able to tap into some of these tax reliefs. It's been a real education researching how to receive insurance coverage. The Abilities Foundation and Sites on Computer have been a great help keeping up with the ongoing changes in red tape involved in making claims with Blue Cross and all the other insurance givers. Changes in insurance coverage are constant as our population is growing older, and more individuals are seeking coverage. I've had to make some changes to offset further limitations. I drive an SUV as it's easy to get in and out of for both myself and my wife, who has had both her knees replaced. I park close to facilities knowing before where elevators, escalators, and washrooms are. I usually can be found at 8:30 in the mornings outside Tim Hortons with my SUV parked right outside the door, so I don't have to walk so far. I call our home a geriatric home, where everything is on the main floor. I have many banisters and handholds attached right into the 2x4s to help support us when we go up and down the stairs and when we're in the showers. I enjoy going to restaurants like the A&W and the Big Stop, where they have the old-fashioned booths where you can slide in easily and get out, and you can also put your hands on the tables and the chairs and not have to worry about them giving way. I pre-choose seats on airplanes where there's more room, and I often pay a little more to get the, especially on WestJet, to get the first 4 rows. The seats are bigger and you have more leg room. And I also book carts through airlines at the various airports to get you from one gate to the other. I make regular visits to my own doctor and my 2 orthopedic specialists to monitor my condition and prevent having to wait months for referrals. I also visit my technologist who looks after my braces and my orthotics. As a matter of fact, I'm going to see him tomorrow. Organization and keeping journals of appointments and your visits is very important. I continue to be involved in a number of organizations. I have a 32-foot travel trailer in West Malibu, which has replaced my sailboat because it's safer for me and my wife. And the 2 of us travel, and this year spent 2 weeks in Hawaii and a week in New Hampshire, and we're already planning to return to Europe next year. My memories from 63 years ago in the hospital are fading, but I do remember some things. My life has certainly been influenced, and I think I have a few tics. My kids say I have phobias. I have a terrible dislike for anything made of wool. I've never been able to wear wool socks or wool sweaters, and I can't tolerate wool blankets. So I wear Toronto Maple Leaf socks, and I have a Toronto Maple Leaf mat and a blanket under my bed. It helps to soothe at times. I can still smell steaming wool wraps that were used on my legs, and I still hear the haunting sound of the iron lung and the sucking sounds, especially at night. I still hear the sobbing of little kids coming into the ward. I got terrible eating habits, and I remember November 22nd, 1963, as many of you do. It was the date of my last March of Dimes polio clinic, and I was 16, and the doctor, Arthur Shears, was 2 hours late because he got caught up watching the events of JFK's assassination. I chose to be proactive rather than give in to a life of self-pity, and I just tried to do my best. My visits to rehab in Halifax and City Mines continue to give me a good dose of reality and makes you thankful for what you have when you see some of the problems other people have to deal with. I want to share a few life skills I've tried to follow, and I hope I've instilled in my family and the students I taught. When you fall down, get up, dust yourself off, and move on. And remember, when you fall down, you're still moving forward. Do not say you cannot do something until you really try, and try it again. Always set goals, and don't be afraid to take chances and aim high. Never expect someone else to do something you wouldn't do yourself. Learn to respect yourself and others if you want others to respect you. And you're nothing without your family. And I've always been very fortunate that I've been surrounded with my family, and I continue to have family that support me. And probably the best skill, as you probably know, is I have a great sense of humor, and that certainly has helped me in my journey. So ladies and gentlemen, Patrick, my name's Roy. I had polio, and I've been a survivor for 63 years. I now suffer from post-polio syndrome. I'm a person that just has a few more limitations, and you know what? Hey, I'm still surviving. Thank you.
On behalf of the Rotary Club in Port Hawkesbury, we would like to present you with a little token of our appreciation. And we thank you so much for sharing your experience with us this evening. There you go, Roy. Thank you very much. For everybody here, I it mainly affects children under the age of 5 years old. Now I'd like to introduce our next performers, Charlotte Richards-Laney and Heather Richards.
Thank you very much. And we're going to sing a song that was written as a result of a lyricist coming home and finding out that his 2 kids had just had their polio vaccination. And he was trying to write a song for Mary Poppins. And his children told him that, no, it didn't hurt, because he thought they were having an injection. They said, no, they put it on a cube of sugar, and they swallowed it that way. And so, it might have been on a spoon, and that's how this song came about. What's the name of the song, Carolyn?
A spoon full of sugar.
In every job that must be done, there is an element of fun. I think it's sugar. So in every job that must be done, there is an element of fun. You find the fun and snap! The job's a game.
And every task you undertake becomes a piece of cake, a lake, a sweet. It's very clear to see that a spoonful of sugar helps some medicine go down, the medicine go down.
Medicine go down. So next, I guess I'm going to sing another song. Yeah, come around. Rise again.
I had no idea there was going to be props.
I had no idea there was going to be actual sticky sugar. I needed to get white.
When the waves roll over the water. Charlotte, Heather, and Pat. As you can hear, there's a lot of talent in the Richards-Lamey family. Great job. That was incredible.
So here's a polio fact. In September 2014, immunization campaigns reached nearly 94 million children in West and Central Africa. I would now like to introduce a very talented fiddle player from the area backed up by our own Rotary Club President, Patrick Laney. A big round of applause for Miss Allie.
Hello everyone. I'd like to say a big thank you to the Rotary Club and Jeremy for asking me to play. As a musician, you get asked to play at different events and sometimes it all just becomes a big blur. But it's nice to come to an event and really be with everybody and learn things that you didn't necessarily know or take something away from it. It's nice to come and hear stories and just touch base on some things, some real issues, and sometimes we get away from that, and there's a lot going on in the world today, and sometimes it's nice to come together and do things like this for support, and so round of applause for you folks for coming and the Rotary Club for doing such a wonderful event. It's very touching to be part of this, so thank you very much. As for tunes, I'm not really sure. Maybe we'll just play some jigs in D, I guess. We'll start there.
Ladies and gentlemen, Alan Lumbercat. Wonderful. Thank you very, very much. 16 seconds. You know, it's interesting because we're actually 16 seconds ahead of time here, aren't we? Sort of. Anyway, just for people who are not aware of what's happening now, at 6:30 Central, they are going to start this broadcast, and of course here it is right now. This is the live stream all over the world, World Polio Day. Here we go.
We'll actually probably just proceed on, John, if you're up here. And I'm going to welcome past District Governor Pete Smith to the stage.
Thanks, sir. Technical difficulties, when you consider this is going around the world, I'm sure they're working hard to try and get the problem sorted out. But anyway, we'll move on, and I'm sorry that we don't have that live stream for you, but you can hear it properly. Trade area Rotary. Our Rotary Club in Port Hawkesbury represents all the Strait area. I'm not from the Strait area, I'm from the beautiful village of Burnett. So I drive an hour every day to and from Port Hawkesbury to come to Rotary. Rotary, back in 1988, decided to take it on with the World Health Organization and Centers for Disease Control and other organizations to eradicate polio in the world. 1.2 million Rotarians, 30,000 clubs. It has been the main thrust of all the humanitarian fundraising and work that we have done since then. There were hundreds of thousands being affected by Rotary, by polio. Today, that number is significantly less. This is what Roy would have seen when he was suffering from polio when he was a child. And this was a picture taken in the States. I don't know if they had this many in Halifax at the hospital, probably not. But this is how they kept the polio patients alive until they could overcome the disease. That picture, by the way, was taken in 1952. A lot of these facts have already been gone over, but as you can see, it touches the children and it affects the nervous system, causing paralysis. And this is what Rotary wanted to change. We wanted to get into the third world countries so we could immunize the children against polio so they wouldn't suffer this dreadful disease. Next slide. So this is today. Now this slide was done a few months ago, and it's changed a little bit since then. But it's still Afghanistan, Nigeria, and Pakistan that has polio cases. The last report I got off the internet today, there were 258 new cases in Pakistan. The reason we can't get into Pakistan is pretty self-evident. It's a war-torn country in an area where we need to get in to immunize the children against polio. And if we can't get into that area to immunize, then it will spread. Because the third world countries do not immunize all the children every year. All the new babies are not necessarily immunized against polio. So you can see what would happen in 40 years' time. If we don't eradicate the disease, it can come back to our shores because there are many Canadians, many Americans that do not immunize their children against polio. This was a lucky polio survivor. You can see the withered limbs. This picture I didn't take personally, although I've seen them in Cameroon and India. And this chap fortunately had someone build a tricycle for him so he could get around. Otherwise, he would be crawling on his rear and propelling himself with his knuckles. This is how they get around in many parts in Africa, the polio survivors. Their withered limbs tucked underneath of them, and they're sitting on a skateboard. And I've seen them in Egypt, where they will come up behind a bus or a vehicle and hang on to the rear bumper and then go through town to where they want to go, and then just release themselves and get to where they're going. So there are many of these people over there. This is what Rotary is trying to eradicate. Now, I've been on many immunization clinics, many NIDs. I've been in Cameroon 7 times and India once. So I'm just going to quickly go through what I experienced when I went there. Here in Cameroon, we traveled to the various outlying villages. Here we're going by speedboat in this case, but in other areas I traveled by dugout canoe, and we would go to these small huts and immunize all the children. We immunize the children up to 7 years of age. And what we do, we put 2 drops of the vaccine in their mouths, and then they get another 2 drops 3 months later, and another 2 drops 3 months after that, and the local health authorities take care of that. This is what we carry with us. So this is an ice box, and it carries the vials of vaccine. And in that particular box, there would probably be 50 small vials of vaccine that we would carry with us. And of course, once you vaccinated the child, immunized the child, you put the vaccine back in the box, because you shouldn't let it warm up. When I first went in 2003 to Africa, to Cameroon, on this humanitarian mission, we immunized the children. As I said, we would go to the various schools. You notice the school children all in uniform, so that's typical in the third world countries, and immunize every child. This boy would be a little bit older than 5, he's probably around 7 years old, and this was on the Manaka Island, off the coast of Cameroon, and receiving the 2 drops. In the background you would see a nurse, and you would see a doctor, and a Rotarian. When you came in, hopefully you received a small drop of blue ink on your finger, purple. Now in India, when I was in India in 2004, what we did, we painted the finger with an indelible marker, because the children would come back for seconds. And we had to monitor that, because usually what we did, we carried decals with us, and we would peel off a decal or something that we could hand the child. And of course they wanted to get more of these, so they would get back in line to be immunized again. So every time we immunized a child, we would always check their finger. And this is in one of the outlying villages in India. The population of India is 600 million. India now is polio-free. It's been polio-free now for 2 years, and we're very, very proud of that. Next slide, Bernadette. And this is one of the other ladies that went with me to India, immunizing a child. Usually on an NID, there are about anywhere from 20 to 40 Rotarians that travel. This is all done at the Rotarian's cost. There's no money that is supplied by Rotary or any other fundraising that's done to cover the cost. This comes out of the person's back pocket. The thing that I enjoyed about doing the NIDs, it gave me a chance to go to the various schools and the various hospitals and see what they had and what I could do when I returned. So when I returned, I started gathering up various supplies and have been since 2003 shipping supplies over to Cameroon and to some to Nigeria. In this slide, here are the children waiting to be immunized. Every time I go to Cameroon, and I go to Cameroon again in March of this following year, 2015, I take my grandson with me, he's 13 now, and I always make sure I set up a polio clinic so we can immunize those children. Next slide. In this particular case, this was taken in 2013 with my grandson. I was over for 2 weeks. I put my grandson in a tribal school. The king of the tribe, 30,000, he made me a chief in the tribe, and this is my uniform. And anyway, we're immunizing again the children in his village. And I'll be going back to that village again to immunize more children, to build some more latrines, to I've got some more hospital equipment going in there. And I guess the final slide, it's all about ending polio, because if we don't end polio, if we don't take the last step to finally rid the world of polio, we will forever be seeing crippled children in the third world. It could break out in Canada and the US in the children that I'm immunized, because people don't realize today that there is still polio in the world. And I thank you very much for coming today, and I'm really amazed and proud to be a Rotarian of the Port Hawkesbury Club, because I've never seen so much talent in all my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Master District Governor Pete, for that very informative presentation, and also for the work you've done personally in Africa and Cameroon on those national immunization days to help eradicate polio. I have another polio fact for you. The actual cost varies by country, but the average cost to each one child with a vaccination during 1 round of immunization activities is just 20 cents per child. So a little bit of money goes a long way. It gives me great pleasure now to introduce 2 young ladies from the Richmond Cheer Athletics Club. They're also the daughters of Jeremy White, Riley and Sierra White. They'll do a short cheerleading routine, or cheer routine, for your viewing pleasure.
children that don't cure for polio, the best protection is prevention by way of vaccination. Until every child has been vaccinated, the polio virus will be alive. Did you know that every dollar raised here tonight will be basically tripled through the Bill and Gateman Foundation? So if you haven't given anything in the box upstairs, please do. Another little story. I know a little bit about polio. My late wife had polio, and she got it in 1942. They gave her one of the first muscle transplants ever. She was in an army. Can't hear me. She was in an army hospital, so they tried. It didn't really work out that well, but they did try. Polio didn't affect her early on, but later, after the kids came, it did affect her. And I'm not a doctor, but I would say it contributed to her earlier passing than would have been the case. So I do know a bit about polio. Anyway, our next performer is no stranger to Port Hawkesbury in the Strait. He's well known through his articles in the Reporter and well for his musical talents. He's already been on the stage anyway, so I don't know why I'm introducing him.
That's the best introduction I ever got anywhere ever. Thank you, Dave. Give me just a second. You're all so quiet. It's not school. Feel free to talk amongst yourselves. All right, well, I want to thank Patrick and Jeremy for inviting me here. It's just delightful to be here with so many good friends and with so many good folks from the Port Hawkesbury Rotary Club. I've really been impressed and touched with the work that you folks have done over the past few years and over the 50 years that the club has been running. Well, 50 plus 1, I believe now. So a big thumbs up to all of you, and thank you for hosting this wonderful evening. This song that I'm going to start with is partly a tip of the hat to Jeremy. I hope he hasn't done what's his name of the other feller's song yet, but this is one from right up in Newfoundland, and I think it speaks to what happens when we pull through in a small town as we're doing here tonight, or in a small area as we do. So this is a song all about celebrating being from a little community, a small town, because small towns can do big things, as we're doing tonight for polio. So this is called Saltwater Joys. I hope you enjoy. Just to wake up in the morning, in the quiet of the cove, and to hear Aunt Bessie talking to herself, and to hear poor Uncle John mumbling wishes to old Nell, it made me feel like everything was fine. think I'll share one of my favorites from one of my favorite songwriters, Mr. Paul Williams, and he wrote this song many, many years ago for one of Jim Henson's television specials. Those of you that might remember Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas, well, that was where this particular song made its debut and still resonates today. It carries a simple but very wonderful message that the answers will come by and by, and it might not seem to be an answer to so many people contracting polio and dying from polio as well and being crippled from it. But you know something, if we pull together as we are and keep the faith strong that we can make a difference, then we will get the answers when the river meets the sea. So here we go. Hope you enjoy. When the mountain touches the valley, all the clouds are taught to fly. We are born and born again, most peacefully. And though our minds be filled with questions, in our hearts we'll understand when the river meets the sea. Like a flower that is blossomed in the dry and barren sand, we are born and born again, most gracefully. As the winds of time will take us with a sure and steady hand, where the river meets the sea. Patience, my brothers, and patience, my sons, in that sweet and final hour, truth and justice will be done. Like a baby when it is sleeping in its loving mother's arms, what a newborn baby dreams is a mystery. But his life will find its purpose, and in time he'll understand when the river meets the sea. Patience, my brothers, and patience, my sons, in that sweet and final hour, truth and justice will be done. Like a baby when it is sleeping in its loving mother's arms, what a newborn baby dreams is a mystery. But his life will find its purpose, and in time he'll understand when the river meets the sea. When the river meets the almighty sea. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the meeting and keep fighting to end polio now. Thank you.
How was that, folks?
Great as always, Adam. Thank you very much for coming.
I have another polio fact for you. In 1988, there were 125 polio epidemic countries and 71 polio-free countries. There are now 3 polio epidemic countries and 193 polio-free countries. So let's finish this once and for all.
And I'd like to introduce our next performer. He is the current president of the Rotary Club of Port Hawkesbury, and he has played in many Kayleys over the years, and he's going to perform for us tonight. Let's give a big welcome to Port Hawkesbury's Patrick Blakey.
I think I'm going to have help as well. Let me get closer to these people. We're going to do a John Denver song called For Baby for Bobby. And if you know the song, please sing along. I just have to say I'm awfully proud of my fellow Rotarians. So you noticed the way we've kind of introduced you to some of them here tonight as they've come in and introduced the next act. And I'm especially proud of the 3 interactors who've come and joined us from Richmond Academy. And in case you didn't notice, there's a high school level of Rotary. It's called Interact. And 3 of the lovely ladies from the Richmond Academy Club are here, and we're proud of them. And so thanks for coming here and helping us today, guys. I appreciate that. In the rain by your side, cling to the warmth of your tiny hand. I'll do anything to help you understand. I love you more than anybody can. And the rain will whisper your name to me. Little birds will spring along in time. When you walk by, the morning bells will chime. Out there when you're feeling down, clear away the fears that you cry. I'll share with you all the happiness I found, a reflection of the love in your eyes. And I'll sing you the songs of the rainbow, whisper all the joy that is mine. The leaves will bow down when you walk by, and morning bells will chime. There when you're feeling down, kiss away the tears that you cry. I'll share with you all the happiness I found, a reflection of the love in your eye. And I'll sing you the song of the rainbow, whisper all the joy that is mine. Bow down when you walk by, and morning bells will chime. And I'll sing you the song of the rainbow, whisper all the joy that is mine. I'll share with you all the happiness I found, a reflection of the love in your eyes. Guitar fine and tuned down to a special kind of tuning called Dagad. Oh boy, now we're talking. And while I do that, it's my way of just getting into a good Stan Rogers song. Would you like to hear a Stan Rogers song? Trying to think of songs of inspiration, and I remember listening to a gentleman who was the survivor of a shipwreck. He he was from somewhere in the New England states, is where he's from, and his ship was going down, and he was in his life jacket and the survival suit, and he was struggling in the water. And as the story goes, he said all of a sudden this song of Stan Rogers came in his mind. And just when he thought he was not going to survive, the words, rise again, just like the Mary Ellen Carter, rise again. And pull through. But you'd like it if I was in tune for this one. And you like this one, that's true. A big thanks to Bernadette, Rotarian Bernadette, who's up there. She's been helping with the audio-visual all night, and I think it's really kind of been fun for the evening to have some of that coming up on the back. Here we go. And this is actually the final number, and then we're going to have a finale. And any of the musicians who are still here, I'd love to have you come up and join us if you would. Lost to the knowledge of men, all those Charlotte's asking, what are we going to do? You know what we're going to do? Turn around, Charlotte. What are we going to do? Turn around. What does it say? We're going to hand polio down.
So like we said, we have one more number to go. So how was the show? Good? So I'd like to thank all the musicians who came out tonight. It was great. She has some songs. She has a bigger list than I have. I'd just like to thank everybody for coming out. Like I said, when it comes to polio, it's forgotten about by a lot of people here. Like I said earlier, it's been polio-free in Canada for 20 years. But when I asked my daughters the other day if they'd perform here tonight for our polio fundraiser, and they said, what is polio? Well, I guess if they don't know what it means, the work that the Rotary Club is doing and everybody else is doing, it's working. We're this close away to ending or eradicating polio. Let's go the rest of the way. We're going to end off tonight with a song by the Beatles. It goes like this. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And in my hour of darkness, she is standing right in front of me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Oh, let it be, let it be, oh, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. Oh, let it be, let it be, oh, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. And when the broken-hearted people living in the world agree, there will be an answer, let it be. And though they may be parted, there is still a chance that they will see. There will be an answer, let it be. Everyone, oh, let it be, let it be, oh, let it be, let it be. There will be an answer, let it be, oh, let it be, let it be, oh, let it be, let it be. There will be an answer, let it be. And when the night is cloudy, there is still a light that shines on me. Shine on till tomorrow, let it be. I wake up to the sound of music. Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Oh, let it be, let it be, oh, let it be, let it be. There will be an answer, let it be. Oh, let it be, oh, let it be, let it be. There will be an answer, let it be. There will be an answer, let it be. Thank you, everyone. Good night. Everybody's close. Thank you.
Big thanks to John Ellenbow for the